Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 3Q, New Mexico's premier business podcast. I am Pam Myers, and my lovely co host is
Erica Yoakum,
the fabulous Erica Yoakum.
the fabulous Erica. So,
Yeah. And our guest today is Kyle Abraham Bai with Reflective Jewelry out of Santa Fe. Welcome, Kyle. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me and
and who
Yeah.
is this
tolerating the cat.
walking around enjoying our space?
Yeah.
Who is this
Yeah,
beautiful black creature running around here?
we just call her Kitty, the Kitty
Kitty.
the
Oh,
cat.
Kitty wants to be on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. She's definitely got a stage presence going on.
I love
yeah,
it. I love it. I
So,
love it.
Kyle, you are the new owner of Reflective Jewelry, correct?
yes. As of October
Yes.
1st.
Oh, my
It's
birthday.
October
So
1st.
very good day.
Oh,
Very good
cool. So you're a Libra. I'm October 13th.
day.
Fantastic.
All right.
So
Yeah,
tell
let's get
us
right into
Wow.
about
that
the
Santa Fe
brand.
conversation.
Tell the listeners about the brand, what you do, because there's you have a couple of niches, right? So go ahead and talk.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we've been around since 1995. I've been with the company since 2017. Started out as an intern actually, and worked full time since graduating college, and then kind of grew different roles, and here we are today. Um, so the niches that we have. So one of the big things that makes Reflective so different is that we are do a lot of our work by hand. So with
Mm,
artisan jewelry, we do a lot of mixed metal. We do a lot of designs that you're not going to find anywhere else. It's not just like a mall jewelry store. It's like very like it's Santa Fe. It's that kind of vibe very much, but not in a turquoise sense either. In a artisan kind of way. Not that there's anything wrong with turquoise, of course, but you know,
Right.
it's just that's just not what we specialize in. And
Yeah.
the other thing that sets us apart is our focus on ethical sourcing. So we're the only certified fair trade gold jewelers in the U.S. We also do a lot of other, or are involved in a lot of other initiatives trying to source gemstones and metals as responsibly as possible, which is, a lot easier said than done, to put it
Mhm.
very, very mildly. And, that was my initial interest in this company is that I applied for an internship with the only fair trade gold jeweler in the US. I was looking for an opportunity in responsible business, not necessarily in the jewelry world. And then little did I know how bad the jewelry world really is. I think we've all heard of conflict diamonds and things like
right.
that, but it gets a lot more complicated pretty quickly. And I've just stuck with the company because of the opportunities I've had to engage with other like-minded people who really wanted to work on these issues. And that is, ultimately the direction I want to continue with the company. That's part of why, my alignment with the owners, the old owners, and why I'm here now, is because I want to continue that with all the work that they've been doing for the past 20 something years.
Wow. Do you want to expand on the ethical sourcing a little bit more for people that may not be aware?
Yeah. Yeah. So I could expand on it for a long time, but I'll try to keep it brief. In terms of gold, so when I say fair trade gold, I mean like fair trade, like that logo you see with the yin yang symbol that you sometimes see on coffee. So this
Mhm.
gold is traceable to a particular mine. There's a particular, we know that people are working in safe conditions, that they are being paid fairly. There's community premiums that go back. So you can kind of trace the impact of that gold. Um, and let's see, there's just
And you
like
work in
a lot I
silver
could go
and other
into.
metals too, right?
I'm sorry.
You work in silver and other metals as well.
We do silver and gold mainly. Silver, for a lot of reasons, is not available in fair trade. It's basically a byproduct of gold mining for the most part. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't really get a hold of fair trade silver. So this is one of the challenges that comes up. I mean, if you talk about platinum, same thing. There's no no available source of fair trade platinum.
Interesting.
And if you go beyond the fair trade or fair mine schemes, fair mine is the other major one that some U.S. jewelers work with. You don't get very far. I actually went to the Congo for 2 weeks a couple of years ago to try to help get this project that was run by USAID. We were like very close to, we were saying like we're ready to buy this gold, as soon as it comes out, we're ready to buy it. And we had someone else who was really trying to like get that export to happen. And just like these two ends just could never quite meet. And it's just, it's very complicated when you go into the logistics of getting gold out of these extremely remote places in the global south, generally, South America and Africa. And by very remote, I mean like hours on dirt roads to get, or like not even dirt roads, but dirt pathways, really. To try to get anything traceable out of there, especially when there's other groups, mafia interests and whatever that, are currently the middlemen and currently making pretty good money doing what they do. It's tricky to get any kind of like new supply chain set up. So this is what I mean when I say it gets very complicated very quickly.
Wow. Yeah.
This reminds me of the movie The Rundown. It's a rock movie, but essentially they go into Brazil and there is one man who runs the entire area because he has the gold mine. And they show it behind, and it's hell on earth what these workers are going through and how they're exploited. And it's I don't know exactly how true to life it is, but it seemed pretty, it wasn't extreme. I mean, I could see it happening. It wasn't so out of it that you wouldn't believe it. And I know that there's always going to be lots of folks out there willing to exploit the indigenous folk, the native people around there to do the work for pennies on the dollar type of thing. So if you come in there and you say, hey, I want to give you a better life, and here I'm going to treat you better, I'm going to treat you but they have all those systems already in place. Like you said, the whole kind of mafia thing. They own the town, they own the way in and out, they own the airport. Exactly. How do you make that happen? Yeah. So those are some pretty stiff obstacles to get past. Yeah.
Very stiff. Yeah. Yeah. And there's that whole humanitarian side of like trying to, how do you lift up some of the most impoverished people on earth when there's all these crazy, intricate, oppressive systems in place at so many different levels. And then there's also the fact that most people don't know that small-scale gold mining is actually the #1 contributor of global mercury pollution worldwide. And so mercury is not just it's used in the extraction process of the gold. So it binds with the gold, gives it a little bit more mass. So people will literally be mixing mercury, water, and gold by hand, sometimes in the same pan that they later use to cook their dinner. And by people, I mean adults and children.
Of course. And
that's very common. And, obviously mercury is not so great for developing brains or anyone's brain in particular.
Wow.
Yeah. And then what they do is they burn off this mercury in that pan, and that goes into our atmosphere and affects all of us. So there's also, the physical waste or the more solid waste that goes into the rivers and streams and all these watersheds. So it's just kind of this massive problem that is kind of going under the radar for the most part. And that's another thing that Fair Trade works on, is trying to keep mercury usage either eliminated or, at least keep the toxins from being dumped into watersheds.
So why don't we hear about it? That's my question. Like, so I mean, Blood Diamonds, hell, they made movies about it, right? So how come we're not hearing about all the other little nooks and crannies of the jewelry biz if it's this exploitive?
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it, people ask this question a lot. I mean, I ask this question a lot. People that I work with at this group, Ethical Metalsmiths, we all ask those kinds of questions a lot. I think part of it is that the narrative of conflict diamonds, and like with that movie, Blood Diamond, it's easy to portray and easy to kind of understand. And these kind of nuances of, how bad extractive industries are for our earth and for people are a little bit more complicated. that being said, I do think we could make a pretty good movie,
Out of
even
it.
like a mainstream film out of some of these themes. I will check out that one that you mentioned. I hadn't heard of
The
it.
Rundown. Go check it
The
out.
Rundown. Yeah.
I'd be interested for your input on that because, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's a rock movie and it's light, but Christopher Walken is the owner of the mine, and so it's pretty. He's pretty like, but what he talks about is, hey, I'm giving, I'm supporting this whole area. I'm the reason that these people have food and water. Yeah, but
Mhm.
one of the freedom fighters is saying yes, but you charge $1 a day to use a bag, but you only get paid 75 cents a day. How does that? You're always working from a deficit. You never get out. You can never leave these places,
Exactly.
and it becomes generational. Like
Right.
there's no way out of the area because there's no money, and this is the only money that's coming in. It's pretty intense. And if that's really what's going on out there, yeah, we need some more movies and some
Yeah, absolutely.
people to step forward and say, yeah, it's not just the diamonds, people. Like I didn't know anything about the mercury. Mercury is some scary stuff.
Right.
It is, yeah.
And I did
Yeah,
not
and then-
realize that it was a subplot.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think another part of why it's not talked about, obviously, it doesn't. So fair trade gold any kind of traceable gold is more expensive, and it's a lot harder to get a hold of, especially if you're a larger company. That's one of the big challenges that is put out there. Of course, I think if you're a larger company, you might have a little more pull to, kind of work with some organizations to get your supply chain more traceable. I think that's kind of an excuse that's used a lot, but that's definitely, I mean, it comes down to money ultimately, I think.
Doesn't it always?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Pretty much everything.
Were you going to
Oh,
add
so I was just
something
going to
else,
say,
Kyle?
yeah. So, for example, for our company, because we are artisanal, that's part of why we've been able to work with fair trade, is because we actually have all this equipment so that we can melt down and mill out our own gold products, our own gold sheet and wire and things like that, which we use to form and create rings and other designs.
Yeah.
So without that kind of manufacturing capability, if you're ordering from a major supply house, if you are, it's impossible. It's just straight up impossible.
So you're in Santa Fe, and where are you located in Santa Fe specifically?
912 Baca Street, so near
Okay.
Counterculture.
Yep. And do you have any of your product on? Do you have any of your jewelry on or with you at the moment?
I do, yeah. I have these earrings with opal. These are made by Helen Chandler. She's one of the old owners, along with Mark. Let's see. I've got my wedding ring, of course, with emerald.
Which I was just going to say, if folks go to the website, I'm gonna put your website up here real quick. If you go to the website and you go to about, there's an LGBTQ plus page that talks all about your wedding and your proposal, and your husband is adorable, by the way, and your tuxes and the whole bit. But it also, I love the showing of the sketches, like the ideas that you came up with for the rings, and then being able to build your rings. And that would be a very cool thing to be able to do, like not just go shop at Zales, but to actually have an idea out of your own brain and have it designed would be pretty amazing. That would be very cool thing.
Absolutely. And it's not just for me that we do that. We do that quite a bit. Most of our business is custom. We actually also repurpose people's inherited diamonds and gold into new designs, which is not something you'll find many companies doing. Again, that's that artisan element.
And sometimes it's necessary because they are old and they look old.
Yeah, styles have changed. But it doesn't mean that, you still want your grandmother's, you have the sentimental attachment to this stuff, but you just don't want to wear that out. So yeah, why not redesign it?
Grandma's ring is this big and takes up this much of your finger. Maybe we can make a few rings out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
So it's all. Go ahead, Erica.
Oh, I was just going to say, so through the whole pandemic thing, you guys hung tough and made it through and came out the other side. And and the whole bit that was that I know it pivot became our favorite word during that period of time. People were like, okay, well, then we're gonna do this over here, and so assuming that people were still kind of reticent about going out into the world. How did that affect you guys? What did you do to pivot to make it through that crazy time?
Yeah.
Are you talking about me and my husband, or me or Reflective Jewelry?
Yeah. Either. Pick one. I don't care. Either one. How did you guys make it through the pandemic? What did you do to make it through and not go crazy? Or close your doors?
Yeah. Well, my personal life with my husband, we had already been working from home together for years. So the pandemic was
nice.
not all that different.
Right.
But we are glad to, be on the other side of that, of course, and be able to like go out and do things. We spent a couple of years in New York after we got married in Pittsburgh. And then I convinced him to come out here because I, wanted to take over Reflective.
Yeah.
And in terms of Reflective, yeah, so the pandemic was an interesting time. I was not in charge of the company at that point, so that was more for Mark and Helen to deal with navigating. But they did, they were able to, because of, all of the unemployment kind of benefits that were put out at that point, able to like keep people working very minimally and like kind of just keep the company going in a very minimum, just kind of gave them that kind of flexibility. Thankfully, there were enough grants coming from the federal government and all that kind of stuff. So, we bounced back pretty quickly and actually even better than before. So, kind of just gave us.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think?
I think it gave us time to like. By us, I mean mostly Mark and Helen, but also me. Just gave us time to kind of sit back and like really think about things and kind of regain some energy that I think that they had. In particular had lost, but I think all of us, kind of get burned out after working 40 hours or more than 40 hours a week, every week. It just kind of was a little bit of rejuvenation there. And then I was also focusing on some SEO efforts. So some online marketing and, article-based marketing. That's part of, that article is all true from the one that I put up with me and my husband, but that's one of the things that I put up because it's, why not try to put out a story like that and show people like this is what you can do. And also, I think it is really important for people to know that there are options when you're looking for wedding rings as a queer person or engagement rings, or, what do you do, right? Is it an engagement ring or is it a wedding ring? Do you want one or two rings? Who does what? It doesn't matter.
Do you want them to match? Do you care? All of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like I said, having something that is intimately customized to you and your relationship seems, it's fantastic. Seems like well, of course, if you could do that, that would be, very cool to do.
Right. And, I don't think you have to be queer to do that either.
No,
you can do it.
I'm on board. I'm like over here going, yeah. Like I like emerald cut diamonds. I've never been the big, the big round sparkly kind of girl. I like the emerald cut, and finding rings that I liked really that weren't really tall, because trust me, if I can catch a ring on something, I'll rip flesh off or destroy a car seat, or I've done it all with big rings. So low profile, all these. So I had specifics in my mind, but I had to go through looking for years really to find this one. This was my 10-year anniversary ring, to find one that actually fit all the criteria. So to be able to go into a place and say, I want this cut, I want this, want it like this, I want it low, I want it, and all of that kind of thing, would have saved a lot of time and disappointment.
Stress, right?
And stress, right? Yeah. To be able to design your own ring. I mean, yeah, and then it's bespoke, right? It's your ring. You designed it. You came up with it. It's like I said, it's more intimately attached to you. I think I love it. I love the idea.
Yeah,
I'm over here thinking what I can, what do I have that I could repurpose into something?
Yeah, and that it's ethically sourced. I love that you're doing that. Yeah, that's really.
Well, does it count as ethically sourced if I bought it from some jewelry store, but I bring it to you?
Well, I wouldn't say it's ethically sourced, but it's not doing anything harmful. You know, it's
Right.
kind of a neutral option. I think if you're repurposing something older, that's
Right.
totally fine. And obviously part of being a responsible citizen to our world is to reuse things. Not that gold gets thrown away, but you know, it is, yeah.
I bet you it
Yeah.
does. I bet you if you could go through a garbage heap and with a gold detector, I bet you a lot more gold gets thrown away than we think it is because people are, I mean, we've seen people huck them into the water and stuff, and they get
Right,
pissed to
that's
throw them
true.
into the ocean and that kind of stuff because they're mad at whoever gave them the ring. And I'm over here going, excuse me, I wouldn't
Yeah,
know. I can repurpose
yeah,
that.
right.
Let me take your anger. I'll take your anger over here.
Yeah. Yeah, just like, get some sage and then there you go.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Well, if you melt it down, right, you release whatever was attached to it, and then you just
Exactly.
sage the liquid gold, and then you're ready to go, right?
There you go.
Exactly.
Love it. Love it. Wow.
Well,
Wow.
is there anything else you want to let the listeners know about your product line?
I'm going to put your website
Um,
back up here so that people can
oh,
go and
thanks. So yeah, I guess two things about the company. We we have a huge line of things that has been developed over and honed over 28 years. So you'll see a lot on our website. We can make slight customizations to things. We can do entirely ground up custom pendants and rings. That's just we have a lot of capabilities between our artisans. We also have people who work with CAD CAM, computer design, have a lot of different range of things. I mean, that's part of why we've been around for 28 years is because of that flexibility. So if you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer those. Um, Another thing though that I would want to mention is, and I don't want to get too deep into this because I'll probably start ranting for the next 3 hours. So in terms of the ethical sourcing, I think it's really important to be an aware consumer and kind of be aware of people's BS, for lack of a better term. Greenwashing, you could call it. I'm not sure how well known that is, but so
I just
you
learned
will
about
see
it on your
recycle.
site.
I'm sorry.
I just learned about greenwashing on your site
Oh,
as you.
great. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So one of the main things that you'll hear some larger companies talking about is recycled gold and how that is like such a great ethical source. And like I just alluded to, I don't think gold is so often, at least, intentionally thrown away. I mean, people have been going through a lot of efforts to reuse gold. I mean, jewelers collect even their dust off the floor and get it
Wow.
refined.
Okay.
Yeah, and because it's really valuable, and some there's also so this issue of like saying, oh, recycled is like an ethical thing when it's always been the status quo is a bit problematic. Another thing that's hugely problematic is that a lot of industry definitions of recycled are not recycled. Like when you say recycled, we want to mean like post-consumer recycled, right? And like to me, that is like the neutral option of like repurposing some ring that you already had. Like that's already been bought, already been worn, and now you're just reworking that metal. That's post-consumer, that's fine. But a lot of industry definitions allow for gold that's mined, like say last month, and was put into a bar form, and now it's melted down into grain. Now that's recycled, which is like kind of insane. And yeah, exactly,
Just because you
exactly. Just
touched
because
it
it
once doesn't mean it's recycled now. Yeah.
exactly. So when you say like you see these things are like 100% recycled gold, well, what does that really mean? And generally, it doesn't really mean much. It could come from any source. It could have been mined very recently. So that's just something to really be aware of when it comes to, like I said, we hear about conflict diamonds, and that's a whole other thing that's kind of more complicated than it sounds at face value. But recycled gold is just something that I see coming up more and more because we
Hmm.
do have a lot of, especially younger consumers who really do want to do good with their purchase and really do want to make a difference. And then they're kind of being misled into thinking like, oh, this is the most ethical thing I could do. This is the most responsible thing I could do. And it's really not. And I'm not saying you have to buy from us. I'm just saying like, you know, find someone who works with Fairmind if you can, or Fair Trade Gold. You'll find us here in the U.S. anyway. And then, the more we can drive demand for these traceable sources of gold and stones, then the money's going to follow that, and then that's how things are going to change. That's really how it all works at the end of the day. For better
So
or
you're
worse,
really
that's what we have.
Oh, sorry.
So no,
You're
go
still-
ahead.
You're still really the only one in the U.S. doing fair trade gold. That seems
Huge.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, there are 300 plus in the UK, which is a much smaller jewelry market, but we are the only ones here.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that says way more
Wow.
about our culture than about our anything else. But okay,
Yeah.
Right. Well,
don't get me ranting for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I have to say, so I'm going through your site. I'm looking at your rings. It's beautiful stuff.
right.
Thank you.
I'm greedy. I'm looking at just the women's rings, but they're gorgeous. Right? They're looking at it going, wow. Oh, I hadn't even. Oh, I like that. Oh, wait, I hadn't even thought of a ring shaped like that before. So
Mhm.
I would suggest folks go check it out because this is some beautiful stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Find your way to Santa Fe and go check out Reflective Jewelry, and know that you're buying a product that's been handmade and ethically sourced, which is really a lot to say.
Who knew? I'm gonna go do some more research on this.
So,
This
Kyle,
like,
thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast this morning. We really appreciate your making the time to come and educate us and our listeners on
Yeah, thank
what
you very
you
much for
do
having
and your
me.
product and how it's sourced.
yeah, I mean, yeah, this has definitely been an interesting wake up for me. I'm gonna go, like I said, I'm gonna go do some research because this was all in the shadows for me. So I'm gonna go figure out what. So thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for the opportunity. These issues are really important, and I'm just glad to be able to put them out there a little bit more. We're only one small company, but that's all we can do, right?
Right, right. One
Sometimes
step at a
that's all it
time.
takes. That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you again. Thank you everybody for listening. Please join us again soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.